I'm Tania Mignacca, the creator of Ponto, and you're listening to True North Country Comics podcast.
Welcome to the True North Country Comics podcast, dedicated to promote Canadian comic book and graphic novel creators and supporters. I'm John Swinimer. If you want to drop me a line, you can contact me at john@truenorthcountrycomics.com. On this episode, I chat with Tania Mignacca about Ponto at the 2022 Montreal Comic Arts Festival. This podcast is available on Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts. It's also available on the True North Country Comics channel on YouTube. I invite you to like and subscribe. Tania is a Montreal-based illustrator and comic artist. She's the creator of Ponto, a bilingual webcomic about a young road barrel who decides to follow his dream of working in Montreal, a big city where potholes and roadworks are a daily struggle. With his legendary optimism, Ponto will do his best to ensure the safety of Montrealers, but he'll soon discover that life in Montreal won't be an easy one, and that many adventures await in his quest to improve the city. Ponto has become an unofficial mascot for the city of Montreal, but the cute road barrel also has fans from all over the world. And so, without further ado, here's my chat with Tania Mignacca about Ponto at the 2022 Montreal Comic Arts Festival. So, Tania Mignacca, thank you very much for taking time to chat with me.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, this is great. I know that we talked not too long ago, but wanted to catch up with you. And first of all, ask you, what's on your bedside reading table? What are you reading today?
Today, well, I'm not really reading many books at the moment. I'll say I follow more webcomics.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of my favorite ones right now is U-Town by Cab, who is another Montreal comic artist. And it's about gentrification, punks, and there's a lot of places that, she got inspired from our city. So it's always nice to see how she illustrates it. And it has like a little bit of a manga Scott Pilgrim vibe to it.
Ah, right. Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, we're talking under the context of the Montreal Comic Arts Festival. It's taking place in May. And with that in mind, I'm wondering, do you have any favorite past convention or festival moments that you could share?
For MCAF?
Or any type of festival that you've been to. Any favorite ones?
But I think like MCAF is really one of my favorite ones, because if you take like Comic-Con or like bigger conventions, you have a variety of artists there. But the thing with MCAF, I feel it's the moment of the year where all Quebec and some Canadian comic artists get together, and it's like our moment, to catch up with everyone. So we have a lot of parties. It's like really like it feels like a family event.
Ah, that's good.
And usually, like this year, it's going to be on Saint Denis Street, so it's going to be different. But the previous years, it's in the park, so the weather is usually nice. And it's always like, I don't know, like there's a really fun and joyful vibe about it that I like really much. And since, my work is about Ponto is very Montreal centered, it's also the place where I meet other fellow Montrealers. So I really get like the local feedback for the work I do. So it's always a lot of fun.
Yeah, that must be really, really good opportunity to network with people and
Yes.
Rub shoulders, so to speak. Well, with that in mind, being at MCAF, I'm wondering if you could tell me, what will you be showcasing at the festival? What book will you have?
Well, I'm going to have, like, as usual, a lot of, like, Ponto merch. So all the, stickers, postcards, prints. But it's also going to be the first time that I'm going to show the first Ponto book, which I released the fall right before COVID. So when COVID happened, all my events were canceled. So I never got to show it at MCAF. So it's going to be the first time that I'm going to have it, like, at a, like, real comic convention.
Nice. For those not familiar with Ponto, how would you describe it to someone?
Okay, so I started Ponto as a webcomic, and basically the story is the adventure of a little traffic cone in Montreal, because I guess in Montreal we're known for having never-ending construction.
Yes.
And I felt like everyone was always depressed about the city, like, oh, Montreal, it's only construction and traffic cones. So I was like, oh, I'm going to create like a really cute one. And it's going to be a way, to kind of turn the situation around and help people see the city from another angle. So yeah, basically the story of Ponto is like he comes from the countryside and he wants to, he has this big dream of working in Montreal because there's a lot of construction, and he comes to get his first job and he's like super optimistic, but he's going to find out that it's not as simple as it looks. And there's a bit of like I try to show in a really cute way what's going on with politics and stuff. So there's a bit about corruption and these kind of topics, as well as like some urban planning issues also. But it's all done in a very cute and innocent way, and it's good for adults and children as well.
Sure. Now, I noticed on your Twitter feed, you actually have a Ponto character that you put in different locations to photograph. Are you selling Ponto figures or stuffies as well?
I don't think I will have the stuffies because I make them myself, and they're very much on demand.
Yes, I can imagine.
So usually what I do, well, I have an online store and people can buy it from there, or most of the time, if people know that I'm going to be at a certain event that they're going to go to, they message me like 2-3 weeks in advance and I can make it for them. But it's really hard to keep them in stock. They're super popular.
Sure. Well, again, I was looking back on your Twitter feed, noticed you were at a certain event that takes place it's going on right now called, I'm going to ruin this, Vicoli et Riel.
Yes, Vicoli et Ruel.
Can you explain a bit about that? What it looks like it's the showcasing Quebecois and Italian comic artists. You went to this exhibit. How was it for you?
Very fun. Like the way the exhibit is presented, it's like they did an amazing job. And how it started was that the end of last year, the MCAF contacted me because they were working on this exhibition showcasing like Quebec comic artists and Italian artists that took place in Italy. And the topic of the exhibit is how we represent alleys in comics. Because in Montreal, like alleys are a really big deal. Like there's a lot of life going on, like kids play like behind the house and stuff because we don't have backyards, so it kind of becomes a backyard. And yeah, so it shows a little bit like what is the perspective we have. And the Italian city was I think Genoa, and there too they have what they call vicoli, which is like similar to the alleys. So you can see how the Italian artists see, like how they show how the meaning of the alleys for them through their comics.
Nice. And this will be going on also, I guess it wraps up at the same time as MCAF.
Yeah, I think it's until May 31st.
Well, I want to switch gears a wee bit and talk about the tools used to create art. I wonder if you could walk me through your workflow.
So basically, I always do a sketch by hand. So I do like a first rough sketch, and then I scan it, and I do a lot of my inking work in Procreate. So I'm going to do like another sketch which is more detailed, and then I'm going to ink it. But I will say that I like to wear like old slippers, so I do all my coloring in Photoshop, like because I'm so used to it. So this is how like I usually end with the color in Photoshop, and sometimes I use like pictures to add texture, so that like if you look at my illustration, there's kind of a little grain happening. Well, this is the texture of a photo. Like I took a photo of a street, for example, and I put it on top with an effect, so it gives like I find it gives like more warmth and more texture. But yeah, I like to mix like working by hand and computer.
Now you mentioned at the top that you use a sketchbook. I presume because Ponto is always out and about in Montreal that you're typically have a sketchbook and you're looking at real buildings and real scenarios, correct? Is that how you get your sketches done? Yeah. So what makes you find an interesting place, though? What is it that strikes your fancy and says, this would be good to sketch?
Well, I like unusual places in Montreal, like, for example, places that people don't know a lot about. Like the neighborhood where I live is called Saint-Henri, and we have a lot of old industrial buildings. A lot of them were abandoned for like a long time. Now there's a lot of gentrification, but like I like to show these buildings that are kind of historical but forgotten. So you can see some of that in Ponto. Like I did, there's like a scene where they go to like, it's like an old malting plant, which was abandoned for like a super long time and it's full of graffiti. But still, it's a historical place. So I like to show these places most of the time.
Oh,
Right.
that's very worthwhile. Absolutely.
Or like also some iconic places. Like of course, Ponto is an orange cone, so he has a diet of orange foods. So in Montreal, we have this place called the Orange Julep, which is like kind of a retro drive-in fast food place, and it's shaped like a huge orange.
Oh.
You can see it from like if you arrive by plane in Montreal, you can actually see it, and it's like a huge like orange ball, and yeah, so it's like it's part of the like kitsch heritage. So yeah, that's another kind of place I like to show.
Well, we talked about the book you're going to have is Ponto's collection of comics. I presume that you've got something else on the go. Would it be safe to assume that there will be another volume in the future?
Yes, there will be. I'm working on it right now, and hopefully, I think there's like a really good chance that by the end of this summer, beginning of fall, it's going to be out. So I'm going to do like a crowdfunding campaign, and people will be able to pre-order it. But yeah, I'm working really hard on it at the moment.
Nice. Now, we've been talking about MCAF, but I'm wondering, do you have any plans to attend any other events later on this year?
Yes, well, I have a few for the summer already. So there's going to be MCAF, but right after, I'm going to be at this event, which I don't know what to expect. It's called Nerdstock, and it's like comic convention / metal concert. Yeah, like they have like geek metal rock bands who are going to play, and I'm actually going to be a guest with some of my other friends.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, it's going to be super interesting, I think. And also, I'm finally going to go to TCAF, which I was supposed to go when COVID happened. So now it's going to happen this year. So I'm really excited to see how people are going to react to Ponto. I also did like some Toronto traffic cone merch. And also, I'm going to be at the Montreal Comic Con for sure, and probably Otakuton as well.
Wow. So it sounds like you're going to be pretty busy.
Yes, but I'm really excited. Like, we didn't have events for such a long time, so it's always nice to see real people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, with all that you have going on, I'm wondering, is there a website that you recommend that people go to find out about your current and your future projects?
Well, you can go to Ponto's webcomic website. It's Ponto, Ponto, Montreal.com. Or you can follow Ponto on Instagram and Twitter. It's at PONTO_MTL, Ponto MTL, or Ponto Montreal on Facebook.
Very good. Well, Tania, those are all the questions I have for you, but I'm wondering, is there something I didn't ask that you'd like to get across in this interview?
I'd say come to MCAF because it's very amazing.
Thanks to Tania for the chat. You can discover more about Tania on Twitter and Instagram at Ponto, PONTO_MTL, and online at pontomontreal.com. And thanks to you for listening to the True North Country Comics podcast. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to and like this podcast on Apple Podcasts. And please leave a good rating. Also check out the TrueNorthCountryComics.com website and follow along on Twitter at True North Comics. True North Country Comics is now on YouTube. Please like and subscribe to that video channel. Please send your feedback to John at TrueNorthCountryComics.com. Thanks again for listening, and come back soon for another episode. Bye for now. True North Country Comics Podcast, copyright True North Country Comics, copyright 2022.